Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say. The impact of the new tariffs on Nigeria-U.S. trade is a pressing concern with far-reaching implications for both countries. The United States has, of course, imposed a 14% tariff on Nigerian exports, which could cost Nigerian exporters $840.8 million. Now, this move is part of the U.S. government's effort to protect its domestic industries and balance trade deficits. It's a beautiful episode on your favorite primetime show, our final episode for the week. My name remains Osayo Mesale, and today we are discussing the impact of the new tariffs on Nigeria-U.S. trade. Now, remember, Ways is all about you. You are the wine Ways, so be a part of the conversation every single day. You can add your voice to the discussion. Head onto our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. Hit the subscribe button, like, share, and invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. When we open our phone lines, please would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. As always, let me allow you ponder on my quote for the day. It says, everybody wants to come and make a deal to reduce tariffs. And this was from President Donald Trump. Yeah, that is it. It's interesting what is going on. There's just been a lot of trade war. In fact, it's the China one that I'm not even getting it. But I see that there will be so many opportunities that would open up to other parts of the world. And I'm hoping more countries, right, will take advantage, most of the countries will take advantage of this current trade war going on. So let me run off on a break, right? And I come back from that break. I want to let you in on my news interest. Then we'll then delve into tariffs much later. Stay with me.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
All right, thanks for staying tuned. So I'll start off my news interest with a 35 billion naira fraud. Court orders final forfeiture of a property in Ikoyi, and this property is linked rather to the former bank staff Adeyinka. So let me quickly read the story. It says the EFCC, represented by counsel Zinat Atiko, stated that Adeyinka, who worked in the bank's settlement office, exploited his position to carry out fraudulent transactions amounting to 35 billion naira. And the Federal High Court has ordered the final forfeiture of the 7 high-value properties that is linked to Muiz Tijani Adeyinka, a former First Bank PLC employee, over this involvement in 35 billion naira fraud. Justice Deinde Diolu issued the ruling Thursday following an application by the EFCC, which argued that the properties were acquired with proceeds of illegal activities. The forfeited properties includes luxury apartments and prime land in upscale areas of Lagos and Abuja, a 3-bedroom flat in La Moriac Residence Estate in Lekki Peninsula, multiple plots of land in Amen Estate, Arizona Estate and Itunu City, Ekpe, a parcel of land in Tiara by Amen Estate Limited, Lekki Ekpe Expressway, and a plot of land in Ochacho Real Homes, Life Camp, Abuja. So the EFCC counsel represented by counsel Zinat Atiko, stated that Adeyinka, who worked in the First Bank settlement office, exploited his position, of course, to carry out this this fraudulent act that now amounted to about 35 billion naira. So despite a 14-day public notice for interested parties to contest the interim forfeiture, no one came forward to claim the property. So they have declared those assets that they were acquired through unlawful means. So the reason I'm taking this story is 2 things for me. I saw a story of a guy that lives in the U.S. That came back and was just lamenting how his money has been missing, and he's been going back and forth with First Bank. They can't seem to trace where his money is, right? And meanwhile, he fixed that money in the bank in First Bank. So the question is, how safe are our banks? Because given the fact that it is human beings that run those systems, so how safe are our banks? Second thing is, I've always said it that real estate in Nigeria is quite tricky. It's a very funny market because you see, a lot of times you just see people that get money from all sorts of fraudulent means, either from government or whatever it is. The next thing they just do, pump that money into real estate. So that has now kind of distorted pricing in real estate. So you're not getting actual value for your money. What are we paying for in real estate, right? A lot of people, I mean, a friend of mine was telling me how one particular politician just came for a new estate that they had just built, bought a full street. You understand? Because, of course, they're trying to find where to push that money to. You might call it money laundering, you might call it, what's it called? Just try to push the money into different things. And real estate is one of the biggest conduit for that kind of money movement. So when you see things like this, I'm not surprised, I'm not shocked, right? And I keep on saying that until we learn to regulate every sector in this economy, that way we can now start having some sense of decency, because I don't understand why people will just wake up overnight. A property that was 200,000 becomes 200 million, and nobody is questioning how did it get to that point. You know, so it is very, very interesting. So when I see stories like this, it just kind of, what's it called, further tells us that, yes, this is this is a possible reason why we have some of these transactions going south, right? So I'll move on to my next story. The commissioner, or the Rivers State Commissioner of Police, Adewale Adepoju, says that the divisional police officer in charge of the Abali Park jurisdiction, where journalists were assaulted by officers of the command while covering the Take It Back protest in Port Harcourt, have been removed from office. He disclosed this to members of the state chapter of the Nigerian Union of Journalists during a courtesy visit to the union on Friday, where he tendered an unreserved apology to the union and the journalists who were assaulted by some police officers. You know, there was a protest on the 7th of April. So he was describing that the media is a core partner of the police, and the CP explained that the visit became necessary in order to maintain the working relationship, as he cautioned his men against further attack on journalists, warning that the erring officers will be sanctioned accordingly. He said, I learned that there was an issue in which some journalists were smoked and embarrassed, and I was not happy about it. Is it only the journalists that we should be worried about? Why do we not just get to that point where police just avoid, you know, any form of, what's it called? Would I call it an attack, you know, on peaceful protesters? Because it doesn't make any sense. Wherever protest is happening, wherever people are gathered, there will be journalists, definitely. So it was an attack on people that were trying to carry out a peaceful protest, you know. So it's good that this is happening, but beyond this, I think we should just move away from forceful actions every time that the people say they want to protest. That is not the way forward, because it can only make the matters worse. So we accept your apology, but beyond that, we need to move far from that. So refinery slashes, you know, I've been following this Dangote matter. So 22 days after suspending the sale of petroleum products in Naira, the Dangote refinery has resumed sales of its refined petroleum products to its partner and marketers in the local currency. Hallelujah. The Punch exclusively gathered this on Thursday. The 650,000 barrel facility has also informed marketers and customers of a downward review and its loading cost, reducing its ex-gantry price to 865 naira per liter. I think I took this story yesterday, but it's still important for me to re-emphasize it. The new price is a reduction of course, 15 naira, as I'd mentioned, you know, yesterday. Yeah, so we're happy about this move. We're hoping that, you know, it will keep going down. As I said, as much as we are happy about news like this, we need to be intentional about trying to ease the burden of Nigerians. And one way would be truly if we're able to bring down the cost of petrol, because petrol is a commodity that is used by every single person. The person, the vulcanizer on the road, the person doing barbing in a small corner shop, the person doing a grinding machine, you know, like literally almost every single person needs petrol on a daily basis. So as much as we can, because it's a mass product, it will be important that the price, you know, is, you know, capped at a very decent, what's it called, figure, so that people will be able to, you know, sustain their businesses or livelihood. We'll take a break. When we come back from that break, let us discuss the U.S. tariff and, of course, how it's going to impact the trade between Nigeria and the U.S. Stay with me.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlights. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Thanks for staying tuned. Now, in an executive order announced by the President, Donald J. Trump, on April 2nd, 2020, titled Regulating Imports with a Reciprocal Tariff to Rectify Trade Practices that Contribute to Large and Persistent Annual United States Goods Trade Deficit, he announced that large and persistent annual U.S. trade deficit constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and economy of the United States. He then imposed a tariff on some countries to correct this deficit. And Nigeria was fortunate to be part of the country. So joining me to shed more light is Muktar Mohammed. He's the CEO of Finance with Muktar. Muktar, are you there with me? Good evening. Are you here?
Good evening. I'm here with you. Thank you for having me today. Again.
Yes, so
always a pleasure to be on the program.
It is so great to have you here.
I know you're excited about the Dangote.
You said?
Yeah, I know you're excited about the Dangote. I know you're excited about the Dangote fuel that you say is always cheaper for you and it lasts longer. Congratulations, the price is down.
Muktar, are you not happy too?
No, I don't buy it. No, I'm just talking about you. You said your own. You were so excited about it. That's where you buy your fuel. So fantastic. Congratulations. We are still waiting to see our own come down where we buy our own.
No, you just need to port. That's all. And you know the funny thing that the queues are now coming back to those stations. So can you imagine that? They should go back to where they are coming from. But I think it's a good move. But what do you think quickly before we even move into the tariff matter? Now that it seems like we're going back to them selling petrol to Dangote in Naira, sorry, crude in Naira. How do you see this impacting, in the long run?
Fantastic. I mean, I'm part of those people that was wondering why the NNPC was playing politics, especially the former management team. We have to give kudos to the current management. Immediately they came in, the first thing they did was to say that they have to resume that policy. And they did it. They've now, before now it was 6 months. They've now said it's an indefinite thing. And thank also to the Federal Executive Council for making sure that happens. So for me, without that, I mean, there's no benefit of deregulation. That's the truth. The only way you get the benefit of deregulation is this Naira to crude deal. Outside of that, it will be difficult because exchange rate will come in. Remember, the Naira to crude deal is at a fixed exchange rate. So now that the price of crude has actually come down to about $60 per barrel, even if that is going to affect our foreign reserve, but it's a good thing. I think the price should come further down. If at 78 Naira per barrel, you were selling it for us at 930, and now it has gone down by $15. Take that down. We should be buying fuel lower than what we are buying now.
Spot on. So let us quickly move on to the conversation for the evening. So we've been seeing a lot of buzz. Donald Trump, especially with China, they are literally holding their boxing gloves. We were just quiet in one corner watching. They say Spain is Nigeria's largest export destination. From the report I hear, it has about 8.1 trillion naira in export, closely followed by France, the Netherlands, and India. U.S., right, is Nigeria's fifth largest export destination. So do we need to worry about the tariff hike that President Donald Trump has imposed, for Nigeria, especially as it regards export?
For me, we need to worry. We are among the global players, so we need to worry. There's no how we should just sit down and not worry. We have to worry, but again, in worrying, like you said, it could be an opportunity. The trade war is not really going to affect us that much. That's the truth, because what we export to the U.S., like you rightly pointed out, mostly are gas, oil and gas, and that has seen that's not impacted by the tariff. Donald Trump is very tactical about that. He's not putting tariff on oil and gas because he knows that also touched the life of every American. That would skyrocket if he ever add tariff to that. That's what we see when you think of your people. First, you look at like what you are just saying about petrol, where we came up with the naira to crude deal. I think Donald Trump had said no any tariff on gas and oil. So definitely the tariffs is not affecting us anyhow. But the way we have a problem is in the export of non-oil product, like all our agricultural product that we export to the United States of America. I think that's where we have problem with. And the problem is not that Donald Trump really just wants to impose that on Nigeria, but we also have put a restriction on what America can bring to our country. So, like you said in your report, if you are kind to me, I'll be kind to you. If you are not kind to me, I won't be kind to you. I think that's the policy of Donald Trump. Any environment that is not friendly to an American business will not be friendly to them.
Because that's what we're seeing. Yes, it's some countries are going hard, because they feel like he's been hostile. But China is one of our major source of imports, Muktar, and it accounts for, I think, about 23% of Nigeria's import. But only 4% of whatever it is that we have is being exported, And this is quite, would I say, it's quite a downer, because the more we keep being an import-driven economy, then it's going to be harder for us to be able to strengthen our our currency, reduce some of these issues that we have around inflation and all of that, and bring down the cost of living. Because if we are largely dependent on imports, and we're not putting out things, right, it'll be tough for us to be able to then manage our economy better. But now that the U.S. has put, I think it was 104% the last time I checked, because the thing seems to be changing every time. You understand, with China and the U.S.
So it's changing, because China have raised their own now to about 124%. So the game is still on.
The game is still on. So what I'm saying is that would we see an opportunity here in Nigeria that maybe some of the things that China, you understand, what are some of the things that is being exported from the U.S. to China can become a commodity that maybe is readily available in Africa or within our continent, so that we can now take on that market, give them cheaper, tariffs and all of that. Is there even a possibility, that they might need some of the things that probably they were receiving from the U.S., so that they just turn away from importing from the U.S. and just focus on other countries? Do you see that kind of opportunity coming up?
I wish, and I don't think I'm seeing it. I wish. Like you have said, China really export anything from Nigeria. We do a lot of import. And when you look at the U.S. itself with China, you realize that the U.S. main import from China is all about saving costs, high cost of labor in the United States and cheaper labor in China. That's exactly that's why the main headquarters of iPhone is in the US. But where the production center of iPhone is in China, because they are looking at the cost. So there's reduction in cost when you do production in China. So that's basically the whole idea. So for Nigeria to be able to take advantage of that, then we need to have a very robust infrastructure like what China has, and China is still developing more and more infrastructure. So it's difficult because what we are seeing there is labor. It's not really because of the goods cannot be manufactured in America. That's why Donald Trump is saying that, oh, those companies should come and begin to manufacture those products in America. But the cost of those products in America will be high. That's why, as of today, if you follow the trend on social media, they say the cost of iPhone will go up to about $1,200 for the cheapest iPhone. Will go for $1,200. That's for about 8 gig of iPhone because they've introduced about $400 to that cost compared to $800. So those are the part of things that the Chinese give to you. They give you cheap labor, and that's why American goes there. And in turn, Chinese export a lot of product to America, but the product that the Chinese export to America is different from the product they export to Nigeria, whether in terms of quality, because there's a serious quality control in America. So, most Americans like buying the Chinese good because it's cheaper for them. It's going to affect a lot of big stores in America. It's already there already. So, yes, China has a lot to lose, but for Nigeria taking advantage. You just said it nice thing. And like I said, our largest exports outside the shore of this country that bring us high import in high effects in terms of revenues is oil. So all of that non-oil sector, when you look at the value they bring, they can add so much to the GDP. But in terms of monetary terms, in terms of value, oil and gas is still the toast of Nigerian economy. Like I always say, it's the blood of Nigerian economy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me just give a bit of context, because we took our time to do some research. So it would be nice for me to just reel it out. So it is said that half of the top trading partners for Nigeria are in Europe. In 2024, Nigeria had a trade deficit with India, China, Brazil, and other European countries as a bloc. However, the country had a positive trade balance with a surplus of 16.8 trillion naira. Nigeria has disturbing trade deficits with partners like China, which is over 11 trillion naira, and India, which is about 390 billion. These 12 countries, I don't know if they can put up that graph, in that graph that you can see, account for about 58% of Nigeria's total export in 2024. Increasingly, they are also the top 12 countries for imports, right? Most of our exports are crude oil, like our guest rightly said, and it accounts for about 71.39%. But this report then states that ECOWAS represents a strategic opportunity for Nigeria as a trading bloc. Do you know why that is, Muktar?
Look, for me, ordinarily, I would prefer to do business with Benin and do business with Ghana and do business with Senegal. But like you pointed out, how much volume of business do we really come to do within Africa and Africa ourselves? Yeah. Because Africa ourselves, what we do is that we export the raw material. We don't export the finished product. So the people we export the raw material, then we import the finished product. And it's in the finished product that the value is really in there. So you can talk of Ghana now. What would have been very nice for Nigeria and Ghana, it would have been that if Ghana can also finish their chocolates, because they are one of the highest, the largest exporter of cocoa. Yeah. Their chocolate should have been brought to Nigeria. And Nigeria will be looking at what can we take to Ghana. We have other goods in Ghana can also bring in their own fabrics also to Nigeria, and all that. Nigerians also can export their fabrics there. But how many of these things do we really produce within our African nations? That is one. Secondly, again, we have infrastructural barrier. Until of recent now, at least you can get a flight from Lagos to Accra. But you can't get a flight from Lagos daily to Senegal, or get a flight from Lagos in less than 30 minutes to Benin Republic. So you need to build infrastructure. You need to make sure that you are doing volume of trade together. Now, let me give you an example for me. The cost of chocolate is cheaper in the U.S. when you buy it from the U.S. than when you buy it behind here in Ghana. Because again, Ghana's exports the chocolate to the cocoa to the U.S. and U.S. have low cost in terms of production of that cocoa. If that same cocoa is processed in Ghana, the cost of production is high. So definitely the price, if you are an African, you want to buy chocolate in Ghana and buy chocolate in Europe or buy chocolate in America, it's cheaper there. So why should I go to Ghana? So those are part of the things that we need to look at. So how do we bring that cost of production? And that's why the African Continental Trade Agreement have not been able to see the light of day like we expected, especially with Nigeria, because what will happen is that most Nigerian goods will be very expensive because cost of production is high. We don't have power, we don't have good road network, we don't have good storage facility. So if you open up Nigeria economy and say, Ghana, bring your product. Benin, bring your product. Gambia, bring your product. Nigeria will become a dumping ground for their product. Most Nigerians will buy their product because their product will even be cheaper than our own Nigerian product because of cost of production. So when you look at all these variables as a continent, you need to sit down and say, okay, where can we bring in equality in trading, whereby we can both not have this surplus trading. Then you look at taxing, you look at tax. Do we remove tax? Do we remove tariff? Do we bring down it? So those are what they should be working at. But unfortunately, instead of African leaders working on all that, they are working on on a single currency. And I keep asking, when I don't do so much volume of trade with you, what value does a single currency do? Nothing. A single currency itself helps if we are doing more trade together. For the ease of trading, then you have a single currency so that you don't begin to pay in the Nigerian pay in Naira compared to CD compared to dollar. That's what happened in Europe. Why they have single currency is because the volume of trade within the European nations are huge. So we need to begin to look at that before we begin to say, oh, single currency. No, but the African leaders, they are more interested in single currency than even in trading.
Absolutely. You know, when I saw that single currency report, or I saw a few clips on social media, I mean, like you rightly said, I kept on wondering, it's almost like putting the cart before the horse. Have we really seen that there is a strong need for us to be able to now have a currency that eases transaction? Because if we're not doing intercontinental trade, right? We're not doing inter-African trade or whatever it is that we're calling it, then what use will that currency be? I thought maybe I was just, I was in my head when I was thinking it. So it seems like I was right to think about that too. But we'll take a short break. Let's come back from that break and continue the conversation. Stay with us. All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we're discussing the impact of new tariffs on Nigeria-U.S. trade. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join this conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. You can also call our phone line 07025007749 or 0702-142-42420. You can send us an add me on WhatsApp as well. We'll add you to join the conversation via video. Now, let's hear what you have to say. Muktar, before we went on the break, right, I was saying that, first of all, I've not seen trade opportunities within Africa, or maybe Africans are just not willing to want to do that, strengthen the continent. Because if all these things are happening and the U.S. is coming very strong, one would think that this would have been the best time that Africans will say, you know what, should we even decide to just shut down our borders? We will only export, collect, what's it called? What's the word? Collect FX. Then anything that we need to consume or we need in the African continent, we must try as much as possible to put heads together, collaborate with different countries and produce them so that we strengthen, our trade within Africa, right? Is it possible that, that can become something that would just completely change the game for the continent?
Yes, it should, but unfortunately, it's going to be difficult. The world is a global village. If you look at the fight between America and the U.S., Donald Trump is trying to protect the local economy. He's saying we are doing less than what China is doing. So let's be at equal level with what you're doing. So when you shut yourself out of the world, definitely African cannot consume everything that Africa produce. We also want to export it to other parts of the world. So that might not work. But what we need to do is to see that large volume of transaction is done within ourselves. Why should Ghana be thinking of importing fuel outside, importing refined petroleum product rather than doing it from Nigeria? Why should Benin be thinking of, trying to say, trying to encourage smuggling through the borders when they can actually have a deal with Dangote and they supply that refined petroleum product to them? You saw the Chadian government of recent had to reach out to Nigeria and said, oh, we want refined petroleum product, despite their high-headedness that they don't belong to ECOWAS. But at a point, they couldn't help it because they need us. So what we need to do as Africa is to see our competitive advantage and take advantage of it. Start with that first, and then we could also be able to export and open our economy to other parts of the world. But we must be able to say, look, we are doing a lot of trade within ourselves to safeguard our local economy, to safeguard jobs in Africa. So that should be what we should do. But to say that you shut down your economy and then you don't want any other person, then you are going against the World Trade Organization treaty, which says that every country are supposed to open up their border for trade. You don't forget that why Donald Trump slashed that 14% tariff on Nigeria was because of, he called it unethical business practice, whereby we want to export a particular product to the U.S. because we believe we have the market there, and the U.S. also believe they have a market for some of their products here in Nigeria. We are saying no because produce that locally. So that's the challenge.
I see. Okay, so let's move to Nigerians' main export commodity to the U.S. is oil, right? It accounts for about 90% of the export revenue. So how would this tariff, how would it impact the export of oil to the U.S.? Would it weaken the demand for Nigerian oil, or would it affect the pricing? Or how would this, what's his name, our Baba, Dangote, what's the dynamics that would play out within the oil and gas sector? Let's start with that, then we'll move on to other sectors.
Okay, let's look at that. Like I said, there's no tariff on oil and gas. There's no tariff on refined petroleum product. There's no tariff on crude oil. So definitely it doesn't have effect. Yeah, there's no tariff on that. If you are listening to him, he has not said any tariff on importation of crude or oil, because he knows that will have a very strong impact on America. Remember, winter period is coming, summer period, so they all need all this than we do. So they use a lot of gas in America. So electricity, everything is powered by gas. So if you do that, then you are going to see a high inflation in America. So what he did, there's no tariff on that. And that is why I said
Okay, I think
I have the world's largest reserve of oil and gas. But in turn, they still purchase outside. They still buy from Nigeria, buy from India, buy from other countries in the world. But they have a large deposit of it. So what he was saying, remember his popular slogan, drill, baby, drill, drill, baby. He said, we'll drill the oil, we'll measure. So now, what if you don't bring down the price of crude, I'm going to be continuous drilling of oil in my country. And so America is one of the largest markets for oil and gas, whether by Saudi Arabia or even by Nigeria. So that will impact. So he has always favored a low oil price, and that is working for him. Because after bringing in that staging the war into a lot of confusion because of his tariff, we saw the price of oil move from $78 per barrel as when Trump became president to $60 per barrel. So that is what he wants. Now, that is where the impact is on Nigeria. Because what that means is that our budget benchmark is $75 per barrel. And now we are doing 60. So we have a shortfall about $15 per barrel. So is, and knowing that, like I said, 90% of revenue comes from that space. So we will definitely have a revenue shortfall. And when we have a revenue shortfall, know the cycle, because we are so in a haste to impress, we will also have to go and borrow. So our borrowing might just get higher as long as price of crude comes lower. Now, but the advantage is for the local economy, like you and I were saying. That means the price of crude locally, the price of refined petroleum product locally will go down because the price of crude in the international market has gone down. But the effect will be on our foreign reserve, which will also see it drop down negative. And you know what that means. When the foreign reserve goes down, and that means we are in big problem, because exchange rates might just skyrocket. And you know that what is currently driving inflation in Nigeria is the exchange rate. So we win here, local economy, but when you look at the bigger picture of a stable reserve, stability of the exchange rate, then it's a problem. Just this evening, one of the rating agencies in America said that Nigeria has become an investor risk environment because of the low price of oil. So what it means that most investors that will invest in Nigeria may not enjoy the two-way system where you can come in and go out because there may be shortage of FX to pay you.
Wow. Okay, don't scare me further. Let's move on to agriculture, right? Cocoa beans, cocoa products, you know, is one of the, Nigeria is one of the world's top cocoa producers. So we have some of these products that we also export, you know. How well are we doing in terms of, what's it called, U.S. trade when it comes to other products? Because, I mean, if we say petroleum is like the #1 commodity, and you've rightly clarified that there's no tariff on that, so do we even need to be concerned about the 14% again? Because it seems like there's no need to nothing concern us. Or am I supposed to still be worried?
Yeah. You have to be worried because I've told you that the price has actually come down. So that's where you should be worried. If they are not putting
leave
tariff
that
and
price
the price
coming
of
down
food
now.
is...
That one, at least, I mean, in terms of the tariffs that we are discussing, if petroleum products are not, what's it called, are not affected in terms of tariff, then that is one headache to not worry about. That's what I mean, right? So I understand the part of the pricing coming down and how it might then impact inflation in the country. But for other commodities, do we even really do transactions like that with the U.S.? Because I know that, you know, even our mineral resources, like, you know, different precious stones, metals, and all of that we export, gold. I mean, I hear that the U.S. is really looking forward to tapping Africa's lithium and all of that, or Nigeria's lithium and all of that. So how would that tariff, how would it be, how would it impact those other sectors?
It will. The good thing about it is that you are talking about Nigeria export gold, but you know, for me, that is on paper. You can't see that really happening. But it's on paper that we are exporting all those lithium. It's on paper that the minister keep telling us that they are interested in our gold. We've not seen the impact on our foreign reserve, how much of gold have we exported and how much of this precious metal have we exported. Remember, Trump has still as one area that you put taxes. So if we begin to export those precious metal, definitely taxes will come to play on those ones. But I think we shouldn't so much be bothered about that because we are not really exporting that. It's all about interest. They're interested in it. But how much of that have they really exported? So that is, for me, is a no-go. It's a no-no. It's not something to worry about. We will need to worry about the agricultural export to the U.S., even if in terms of value, it doesn't bring in so much in terms of effects. But again, that's also creating a buzz for us to know that, oh, Nigeria can export some agricultural product to the U.S. and also. So we need to look at that. And I'm happy just this evening I saw that it was all over from the presidency, the president meeting with a special representative of the American government in Paris, in France. So hopefully, and the federal government has set up a technical committee to look at the impact of this tariff on Nigeria. You know, for me, it's always very laughable because I don't need a technical committee to know the impact of the tariff in Nigeria. And I always jokingly say it's only in Nigeria where we see a snake and we are supposed to kill the dangerous snake. Immediately we see it. They say, no, just look at this, leave the snake. Let's call the hunters. Let the hunters name what type of snake is this? Why did the snake come to this place?
They should
How
analyze
did it
the
get here?
situation.
Rather than killing it before taking looking at it, you analyze it. Oh, by the time they come back, the snake has gone. So you will go and bite somebody else. So I think that's a problem we have as a nation. We are not looking at, I set up a technical committee to look at what is the impact of tariff on Nigeria. We all know what the impact will be. We already know what the impact will do. What you should be doing as a government is to begin to look at how can we meditate against this. Like the Central Bank of Nigeria did on Friday last week. Immediately they saw that this fight was coming. They know it's going to impact heavily on our exchange. They're pumping about 176 million into the retail side of the exchange market through the bank, to FX market through the bank. That is the reason why we have not seen the kind of movement that we would have seen in terms of the exchange between the naira. Ordinarily, because our currency is so weak, ordinarily today the US currency is one of the weakest in the world. But because we already have a weak currency and we are not doing so much of volume of trade that is bringing us FX, so that's why we are not seeing the impact. Ordinarily today, with what the US is doing, with what they are experiencing, with the kind of confusion they have in their economy, our exchange rate should be getting better and better. But that is a topic for another day. But I personally think that what we need to do is to go with the meetings with them and look at some of these things that they are saying that have stopped them from coming into our country, because we feel that they will affect our local consumption. So they need to look at it and see how they also can protect the local economy from it, because all Donald Trump is doing is he wants to protect the local economy.
Okay, Muktar. By the way, my name is Uwa. You kept on calling me somebody else's name.
Uwa, sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. So I wanted to say, so how do we take advantage of this situation?
Sorry.
You know that why, like you rightly pointed out earlier in the conversation, the US and China, their relationship is more of cheap labor. We have cheap labor in Nigeria, right? What should the government be thinking in terms of taking advantage to be able to bring down? But then again, we can't think of electricity, think of energy, think of so many things. But hey, you understand? I just want to see if there are opportunities here for us. So whilst there is back and forth with China and the US, they will need cheap labor, they will need all of those things. We have those things here in Nigeria, right? What do you think the government can do in terms of taking advantage of, you know, stealing some part of that chunk of revenue?
Call centers in China.
Muktar, are you there? I lost you for a minute there. Did we lose him? Yeah, okay, because I was just thinking how we can take advantage of the situation. Should we start to propose to some US companies to say, come, if it is cheap labor you're looking for, we have cheap labor here in Nigeria or something, just to be able to now kind of anything to help us earn in FX, because the more we are able to earn in FX, the stronger our currency would be. You know, so I'm just hoping that we'll be able to get that. Mukta, are you back?
I can tell you that a lot of Nigerians are earning FX. I know maybe you're even one of them working remotely for one company abroad and you're earning FX. A lot of Nigerians are doing that, but again, we've not that the volume that we earn is not as much to influence our exchange rate. Like you say, our main months of export still remain crude oil. So for us to begin to earn in other areas, like you were saying, can we take advantage of this issue? Yes, we can, if we have the infrastructure. A country like South Africa, if not because of the challenges they have now with the United States, would be a place where most companies will want to go, because you said, okay, look, they have all the infrastructure, they have power, they have road, they have everything. So we can take advantage and get cheap product there. Remember, the United States also are looking at a country like Rwanda, because of the kind of infrastructure they have developed in those places. So unfortunately, Nigeria has not really been able to build those infrastructure, especially telecommunication infrastructure. Remember that American economy is largely a service-driven economy. So if they want the work, where they are looking for labor is not in the manufacturing place, it's in the service area. Most of the manufacturing companies are still in America. That's why some Nigerians go to America. I see them doing odd job. But the real job that bring value to the American economy is in the service sector. And for that to really bring value to them, the cost must be low, and that's why they are doing that from China. So for Nigeria or any other country to enjoy that privilege, especially an African country, you must have those infrastructure. And unfortunately, you can count in your hands how many African countries do have those infrastructure to take advantage of it.
Because I was saying it already, I caught myself because I had to say again. Then again, do we have the infrastructure to be able to balance some of the needs that they would require? But if you had one thing to say to the government at this point, right? It's not a function of setting up committees, because they are very quick to set up different committees and spend more money that we do not have, right? If you had one thing to say to the government as regards to response to what is going on with the global trade war that is happening, you know, what would you say that they should intentionally do? What are the things that you would point to them to start to intentionally look towards?
Well, unfortunately, the only thing they can look for now is to negotiate with the United States of America, to go on dialogue with them, because we are at the mercy of them. We need that FX. Like our crude oil is not a problem. We sell it to Spain. But some of our other products are non-oil products, agricultural products especially, are largely being taken to the United States and Canada. And you and I know why that is happening, because we have a lot of Nigerians, we have a lot of Africans in United States and in Canada. So we need to go into dialogue with them. I think that's the only option we have. We cannot go into power tussle with them. We cannot say we'll slam more tariff on you because you slam us 14%, we'll slam it 28%. It will be more detriment to our economy than their own economy. So if I have any advice for the government now, is for us to just go back there, cap in hand, talk to the Americans and see how we can find a balance.
So you can't tell them, you know what? Don't worry, we don't need you. You can't brag.
No, you can't brag or you will suffer. Because if you look at our power sector, if you look at our power sector, despite that we are saying we are bringing in China, if you look at our oil and gas sector, most of the multinational companies that are still in Nigeria are European and American companies. So we still need them. We need to talk to the Americans.
Quickly, I have 1 minute. Sorry, yeah. I have 1 minute to go quickly. There was something that President, what's his name, Mohammed Buhari signed with China.
China.
That we will be doing direct deal. We don't need dollar. What happened to that deal?
They give them naira. They give you. Okay, let me give you a simple example. Since you have 1 minute, your volume of trade with China has more surplus than Nigeria. So what will happen is that you'll be giving China more naira to keep, and China will be giving you lesser yen to keep. So who is at a disadvantage? So that means a lot of our naira will go to China, while little of their yen will come to us. So that's the surplus in trade. It didn't add up. And I think that's why that deal has not seen the light of day. And it was hurriedly done. There was it was just a range of just calling a cheap political game. And at that time, the then CBN governor, I think it was Malan Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi at the point, said that we started saving FX. I mean, we started saving in yen. We started having our reserve in yen, Chinese yen. But up to today, I don't know what happened to that reserve in yen. Nobody seems to be saying anything about it. So maybe if they are listening now, they should come up and tell us what has happened to that foreign reserve that was in yen. Remember, after that agreement, most Nigerian banks started opening branches in China. Zenith Bank, and I think was one of the pioneer, First Bank also. But it didn't see the light of day because the volume of trade, especially they export more to Nigeria than we I mean, they import more to Nigeria than we export to China. So there was no balance. So it wouldn't work.
Oh my goodness, we ran out of time. But thank you so much for your time, Muktar. Always a pleasure having you on the show. Okay, now before I go, ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channels at Official Upgrade TV. You can interact with us further, drop a comment. Most importantly, engage with us all over our social media handles. If you missed our quote for today from our president, Donald Trump, it says, everybody wants to come and make a deal to reduce their tariffs. So whether our government will go and do a deal, but I really don't see any need for that. I'll see you guys on Monday, 8 p.m. Enjoy your evening and your weekend.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands.
We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.